What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Swanky Disc Golf Show. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Luke. I'm joined, as almost always, by my co-hosts Reed and Josiah, and it has been a minute. We have taken a brief hiatus from the Swanky Disc Golf Show podcast to work on a few things behind the scenes. Today, I want to let you know we are going to be giving you our best habits and practices for disc golfers. We did a podcast a little while ago about bad habits of disc golfers. Today we're doing good habits. These are some of our top good habits that we have practiced or been told to practice by others. We have a lot of really fun sort of advice for you guys / advice for ourselves. But something significant about this podcast is if you're listening on our audio only form, nothing's changed, but we have a new YouTube channel that is dedicated specifically to the Swanky Disc Golf Show. So if you want to watch this with some video, it's going to be on the Swanky Disc Golf Show on YouTube. It's its own channel. We're going to be doing a giveaway specifically for the YouTube viewers. So if you're listening to the podcast, be sure to hop over to the YouTube channel just to enter the giveaway. Again, the YouTube channel is just called the Swanky Disc Golf Show. And we're going to be giving away this beautiful fused Scorch. Discraft just sent us this. Absolutely gorgeous. It's got this like flame, this kind of pink flame design in the rim that is a part of the plastic, a part of the mold. It's kind of like a fused buzz, but it's a fused Scorch. Absolutely sick. Big shout out to Discraft for that. There's going to be a Google form in the description of the YouTube video. This is our first Swanky Disc Golf Show YouTube video on its own channel. So be sure to subscribe, like the video, and enter the Google form for a chance to win this beautiful Scorch. And yes, we're going to be uploading every single week here on the podcast channel dedicated to just the Swanky Disc Golf Show. If you're an audio-only listener, nothing's going to change, but we're getting back to our weekly schedule. And like I said, today we're talking good habits for disc golfers. I'm excited to hear what Reed and Josiah have. Are you guys ready to break down some good habits for us?
Heck yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and preface by saying I'm very guilty of not practicing good habits all the time. It's one of the reasons why we will all three be amateur disc golfers forever. But there are some things, and these aren't going to be like, oh, if you start doing this, you're going to be a way significantly better disc golfer. Obviously, you have to put in time and practice and hard work. These are just some things to optimize your practice. Optimize if you're somebody who just plays on the weekends, plays every other weekend, plays once a month, and you want to make the most out of the time you play, these tips are going to be for you. Or if you're a beginner disc golfer looking to grow and advance, maybe you're looking at playing tournaments soon, or you're just starting in tournaments, these are going to be for you. I'm going to be done talking for a little bit and throw it over to Josiah for our first good practice or good habit for disc golfers. What do you got for us, Josiah?
So there are a lot of good habits that I could think of. I'm sure some of them might be mentioned by you guys as well. And there's a lot of directions that I thought of when I thought of good habits, of things that I wish I knew when I started, and some things that I wish people would tell me now, because I still forget some of them now. But number one on that list is something I still struggle with after playing disc golf for over 5 years, and that is to never throw full power. Never throw 100%. There's almost no situation where you have to throw as hard as you can, especially as an amateur or as a beginner. There's no reason to do it. And especially as a beginner, it gets really frustrating when you see somebody step up who's been playing for years and they pull out a putter and they throw a Luna 300 feet and you're like, what the heck? And then you pull out your 10-speed driver and throw it with all of your strength, and it doesn't go 2/3 of the way that, James Turner threw his Luna. So that is super frustrating, especially as a beginner. And it's something that I kind of have to remind myself even to this day, that like I'll step up to a hole that might be right around a distance that I know I can throw, and I put a little extra power into it that I shouldn't, and it doesn't go any farther, and sometimes it actually goes less farther than what I would have done if I just threw smooth. So remembering not to throw full power and to remember that just throwing smooth is way more important. I think that applies to all abilities, whether you're a tournament player, whether you're a casual player, whether you're a weekend warrior. In any situation, never throwing full power, I think, is super important.
Absolutely. I think it was, I want to say it was Kristen Lott, back when she was Kristen Tatar, that did an interview. I think it was just a Latitude 64 video, and they were talking about like how much power you throw in it when it's like your max, and she was like, no more than 80%. I don't think I ever throw more than like 80% power for a max distance golf shot in a tournament. Just you bring in so many inconsistencies and questions and variables when you're absolutely ripping the disc as hard as you can.
Yeah.
So 100%. That's great.
Yeah.
Great advice.
Yeah, I think the term golf shot comes from this idea. It's like the golf shot is what is my 80% distance that I don't sacrifice any control to get. I have max control and max power under max control, and that's like about 80% to 70% for most people. So yeah, I completely agree. Shoot your golf shots, people.
Yes, that's super important to understand when you're starting out, because so many people will start out and go to a football field, they'll throw a disc and they'll be like, I can throw 400 feet. And it's because you're in a wide open field and you're just absolutely like rounding and yanking the disc out of your, like you're ripping your shoulder out of your socket, but you're getting the disc 400 feet. But then when you get to a disc golf hole that is 400 feet away and you have to actually place it in a fairway and miss some trees, and people are watching, it's a completely different ball game. That's why a lot of people will say, once you get into the disc golf community, they'll say, what is like your disc golf your golf distance for a golf shot? Like, we really specify it is a different thing. Your sort of golf distance and you're in a field throwing a 360 distance.
Yeah, we have distance, we have internet distance, and we have golf distance. Yeah. And there are three different things. Golf distance is, of course, the most important one.
That's true.
Yes.
But yeah,
I love
that habit. Absolutely. And definitely something we probably made mistakes on early on is like just throwing it as hard as possible and sacrificing that control. I'm going to kind of go in the same vein of increasing your control over the disc. And also, like you said, Josiah, there's so many ways we can go about this. This tip goes out to kind of form and kind of thinking through shot selection in particular, because I think it's so important. I wish I had known this too. But my first best habit is going to be just analyze your shot. Oh, sorry. I just saw a cockroach. I have to kill it. Hold on.
Leave this in. Don't cut this. Don't cut this.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to cut this.
This is amazing.
I got him. Hey, okay, we're good.
You want to know what I haven't seen in 2 years?
A cockroach? Bro, it was on my microphone, so you guys will see it in the footage. Anyway,
I'm sure. That's amazing.
That was insane. Okay, anyway. So my first tip is going to be to throw the slowest disc you can get away with. And what I mean by that is when you're analyzing your shot, you step up to the tee pad or to your lie, wherever it is. I try to think about, and this is in the same vein of maximizing your control, I try to not think like, what is my, like, can I throw my distance driver? Like, do I need to throw my distance driver? Like, what I'm thinking is, first, can I get a putter there? And if the answer is no, I'm like, okay, can I get a mid-range there? And I'm still thinking in terms of golf shot. I'm not thinking, man, can I just pump a putter and get it there? I'm thinking, is my golf distance with my putter going to get me there? And if the answer is yes, I'm throwing the putter because I have more control with a putter than I do with a mid. And I have more control with a mid than I do with a fairway, and so on, all the way up. So to maximize control, I ask myself that question. Can I get the putter there? No. Can I get the mid there? Yes, I'm throwing the mid. So I tend to throw the slowest disc I can get away with. I'm not trying to throw a fairway driver at 50%. If throwing a mid at 70% can also get me there and still within that golf range. So I would encourage you to try. This isn't necessarily an every shot all the time. There are going to be edge cases where you need some extra left to right movement that a distance driver will provide for you or something like that. But if you can get a slower disc there, it is more often the most controlled shot. And so I'm just looking to maximize my control when I'm out there on the course.
Yes, 100%. That sounds like super basic, but it's tricky to put into practice sometimes, especially when you're looking down the pipe of a tournament. I think if all of you disc golfers listening can start to visualize disc golf holes that you play all the time, that you're like, yeah, I could get a putter there if I throw it absolutely 100% power. Could also get a distance driver there if I throw it like 40% power maybe, but then it's going to skip really hard, or I'm going to throw it too hard, it's going to go way over the basket. And then you start thinking mid-range or fairway, and that's where the play is. I think we play a disc golf course called Little Mulberry Park all the time, and there's hole 1, which is maybe a little less than 300 feet, depending on which pin it's in, maybe a little over 300 feet. But it's like if I rip on a putter as hard as I possibly can, I could probably get it there. But that's not very likely to happen. If I throw a distance driver, it's easier to get it there. But it's going to, who knows what it's going to do. If it kicks a tree, first of all, it's going to fly 2 miles in the opposite direction. Second of all, if it catches its edge too hard, it's going to skip 35 feet past the basket. So yes, usually like a fairway driver or a mid-range, especially you think about waking up early in the morning for a tournament and you're not exactly sure what your first shot off the tee is going to look like. It's good to rely in that like 50 to 70%, especially 70%, that like 70% power range is just such a natural swing for so many people. And it's something we overlook a lot. So I like that advice a lot. That's a great point. We'll move on to my next one. My first one, actually. My first one is also going to be very basic. It's going to be very simple, but it's something that all of us are guilty of, including myself. And again, there are some caveats to this discussion. If you do not care whatsoever to be better at disc golf, that's totally fine. I get that a lot of the times. That's like you're just going out with your friends to play disc golf. No one cares. It's totally fine. Have fun. That is the most important thing. But like I said, if you're preparing for a tournament, maybe your first tournament or a couple tournaments that you have under your belt now and you're wondering why you're struggling, one of the reasons why many disc golfers, including myself, have struggled over the years that I wish I would have told myself sooner is that we don't practice all of our tap-ins. All of our tap-in putts, and I mean all the way up to the dropping it in the bucket. That might sound kind of crazy, and maybe it is. Like you get to a point where you don't have to drop it in the bucket. But let's say that it's been literally 2 years of you playing disc golf, and you only play with your friends, you only play casually, and not once in your disc golf career has somebody made you pick up the disc and drop it in the bucket. And now all of a sudden, it's tournament day. You're 4 feet away from the basket. You can basically drop it in. But nobody, like, it's not just your card mates not being, chill or cool. They can't let you get away with things because it's not fair to everyone else in the tournament. You have a 4-footer. You step up to it. People are watching you. And it's all of a sudden that stroke counts. If you miss, there's no getting it back. That pressure weighs 1,000,000 pounds, especially if it's your first time in that situation. And yeah, you have a pretty solid chance of missing that 4-foot kind of drop in the bucket. You might hit the cage, or your brain's starting to go like, what if I miss a tiny bit to the right and it just glances off the chains? That's going to happen probably. And I've seen it. I've seen it so many times. And people proceed to lose their minds. And they're like, I can't believe I just missed that. That's so embarrassing. And it's like, no, it's okay. Literally, I mean, if you watch disc golf, professional disc golf coverage, it happens to people. 5-footers probably a dozen have been missed this past Pro Tour season between the MPO and the FPO. Both people have missed those. It is important when you're out just doing your casual practice rounds, or especially if you're doing a practice round for a tournament. But in your casual rounds, if you're inside of 10 feet and you're in the habit of picking that up and moving on, get out of that habit. 10-footers in tournament are terrifying.
I just had kind of a funny story. So I love practicing and the idea of making sure you practice and tapping putts, especially within 10 feet. However, I played a tournament once and I made sure every putt, like, I put the same amount of focus and care into, and was doing my full routine and putt, whether it was a 5-foot putt or a 40-foot putt, and I had a spit out from 3 feet. I putted it normal,
Yep.
right into the chains, and the chain said, "Here you go, right back at you," and it dropped right out. And so I totally agree with making sure that you're tapping putts, but if you can drop it in the bucket, drop it in the bucket.
Oh yeah, no, that's not what I'm saying. You should definitely, if you can drop it in.
I'm just saying, like,
drop it in.
If you're in a tournament and you could physically drop it in the basket, just do that, and don't practice those putts in a tournament.
There were a couple of rage putts this past year from like 2 or 3 feet that bounced right out of the chains back at people.
Oh yeah, things like this. And mine wasn't a rage putt. It was just like me making, because in tournaments you get one putt every 10 minutes maybe.
Yes.
Like one or two. And so like making sure, like, oh, if I have a tap in, making sure you still like have that routine and that muscle memory is super important, and that's what I was focusing on. And then after that, like, I still do that if it's a 10-foot putt, but I just make sure that, my pace is a little bit better than, trying to do a full putt from 3 feet. So that's just a funny anecdote.
100%.
From a real experience.
In the vein of putting out, I'll just do the briefest add-on to that. Putt out correctly too. If you're actually trying to get better, putt out the way that you putt. Don't do a 7-foot scuba if you're looking to get better, because I'm guilty of that all the time. And frankly, I'm not out there trying to grind to be on the pro tour. But if I was actually trying to be a better putter in my practice rounds, 7 to 10 feet, I would stop doing the whole scuba it in and move on, because I'm not going to do that when it counts. And then I'm going to be standing over a 10-footer and I'm like, I normally scuba these in. What do I do now?
No,
I normally scuba.
I get
that. So
I will
just putt the putt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll like turbo putt or throw it around my back, or I'll sometimes I am a believer of the bag on putt when it is within like 7 feet, because it kind of helps restrict your motion. To Josiah's point, when you're that close, it really is a like, just drop it in the basket. And when I have my bag on, I feel more casual. It gives me confidence, and I'm within 7 feet, so I don't have to do this whole range of motion thing. So I am a believer in that. But when I'm practicing, I will walk up to a 10 to 15 footer, and I don't really care if I miss or make it, especially if I'm not keeping track of the score. I have my bag on, I pick it up, and I toss it before I'm even like fully standing up. We all do that, just like Reed is saying, or you like throw a scuba in. And if you're preparing for tournament mode, it is very important. Or if you plan on just regularly playing tournaments, it's something very simple you can do that will pretty quickly make you better at disc golf if you just start taking your shorter putts seriously. And that's so hard to do. It's going to be really difficult to do. I'm not going to lie. Have some friends keep you accountable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Let's go over to Josiah for his second one.
Number two. So this one is I have a couple that I think are really good, and I'm gonna have to drop one to an honorable mention slot, but because I think they kind of fall very similar in the same category. But what I'm gonna go with number two is something that, if you watch some early Swanky videos of me playing disc golf and you talk to me now, you will wonder how I ended up where I am, and that is throwing understable. I think is super important at all levels, but especially for those who are playing much more beginner level, recreational. You learn way more control over discs when there is more understability. So if I'm only throwing destroyers and firebirds and Maltas and just overstable approach and zones and all of those, if that's mostly what I'm throwing half the time off the tee and off my approaches, I don't learn the variability that a lot of different discs have and kind of how to control in different situations. And then I get stuck in situations where it's like I only have one or two different shot options right now. And so throwing understable, both forehand and backhand, is kind of a useful tool to have. And it also allows you to have more fun. You get to try different discs, and instead of doing the same thing, you get to try things that are a little bit different. And so I exclusively threw basically as overstable as they came. And part of that is you watch pros and they throw what is the most overstable, and then you realize you don't have the power that they do, and so you try and throw them harder, and that does nothing. Hence my first point, and that's kind of where I've come to at this point, is the more understable the disc, the less you worry about throwing full power, the less you worry about making sure it goes as far as you want it to, and your golf distance gets better in that sense, as well as your control. It's not just a distance thing, it's a control thing as well. And so I think throwing more understable discs just allows for more variability and control over your own shots. And so I think that would be my second point.
Yep, you guys know how much I love my understable plastic.
That's
true.
Yeah, Reed
I
takes
bag
this point too
a
far.
lot of understable. I find it to be more fun. If you're trying to get better at disc golf, of course, you will eventually want to stable up. But Josiah's right.
But that
shot
comes
shaping
naturally.
is so much easier with understable discs. You are able to accomplish things with an understable disc that an overstable disc can't do. And so people that just go online, especially when they're beginners and they find the overstable discs that everyone's recommending because they're so popular, they often don't get to experience the joy of flip up turnovers in the woods. And I find that to be, as a Georgian disc golfer, the peak of disc golf. It's just like flip up turnovers are like, that's disc golf, baby. So I love that, and I think it's a great piece of advice. I think 70% of a beginner's bag should be at least neutral, if not understable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we say a lot that understable discs are just way better at showing you what you're doing wrong, because a way to progress really quickly is to learn how to throw Anheuser, like, intentional shanks, basically. You take a Firebird, you throw it on about like 80 degrees of hyzer, and you're gonna get good distance out of that. For a beginner who's not really throwing anything else, you're going to get a really good distance out of that, and it's going to be a really consistent shot. It's going to fly the exact same every time you do it, and there's so much leeway. Like, a little bit more hyzer, a little bit less hyzer, it's pretty much going to do the same exact thing, and that can become a crutch for people. And again, I'll preface by saying, if that's what you throw and it works for you, and you play the same course every week, and you're winning your local league because you just throw Firebird on forehand, which I've literally seen in person, keep doing it. That's awesome. But if you're like playing different tournaments at different courses with different layouts, you have to learn these understable shots that are just trickier, they're touchier. It's a reason why a lot of people don't especially throw understable putters and mid-ranges. They're just not as popular because they're super touchy. If you turn them a little bit too much, they're going to burn out into a roller. If you throw them on a little bit too much hyzer, they're not going to do what you expect. They're going to be more overstable. So definitely, there's so many shots, though, where you need that. And another thing about the professionals and what they're bagging, like, we know some of these people. We talk to them. We had an interview with Alden Harris and Isaac Robinson where we talked to them a lot about discs. And we asked them sort of how hard it is to replace some of their, like, trusty discs when they lose them. I can't remember how it got brought up, but he said basically anything overstable is super difficult to replace because it's so beat in. They're not actually, like, they don't want to go and pick up, in the example of a Discraft player, they might have a Malta that is a decent amount more understable than a normal Malta that you would just pick up off the shelf. They've had this Malta for 4 or 5 years now, and it's flying almost like a buzz. But they love the hand feel of a Malta, and they love that it has that hook in the rim of an overstable disc that gives it that high speed stability. But it flies more understable for them, partially because it's more understable of a disc. And they're like, it's super hard to replace good overstable discs, because if you just pick one up off the shelf, it's going to fly nothing like it's been beat into. So that's another area of, like, when you watch the pros, it's so deceptive. Sometimes it's literally, they just throw way farther. Obviously, that's a big case. But another time, it's like, Calvin Heimberg has had that rock in his bag for 10 years, and it's beat to shreds, and it flies super understable because it's super understable. So, yes. Great advice, Josiah.
Yeah, absolutely. Bag understable, people. My number 2 is going to be for my practice round warriors, for my people that throw multiple shots out there when they're playing practice rounds. I am one of you, so I get it. But my piece of advice and a tip for those trying to get better is to play your first shot. It doesn't matter if your first shot hit a tree, first tree available, kicked off into the woods on the left. You got to navigate to, you got to be a freaking wilderness explorer. You got to have your Boy Scout badge just to get back there. I mean, maybe it's hard to get back there, but I encourage you to do it, because if you play your second shot that put you in the fairway, you'll never get good at scrambling. You'll never get good at handling the positions that you find yourself in when you throw a bad shot. So play your first shot, scramble, and you will just naturally get better, because the consequences of your bad shots are the positions you'll find yourself in tournaments sometimes. And if you've never been there because you didn't take your first shot, you will be lost and you won't know what to do. But if you're like me and you kick off into the woods all the time and you go back there and you throw that shot, you throw that forehand roller, or you throw that Anheuser Firebird pitch out, or like whatever it is, get good at scrambling and you'll feel so much more confident when the time comes that you need to, and you will need to. So you might as well practice it. And it's not like it's taking away from your practice round. You can still throw that second shot. I encourage you to, but just play your first lie. You'll get better.
Yes. I think a lot of what we're saying is kind of coming down to practice how you play. And that's a big one. I'm a 2 off the first tee kind of person, and it turns into mulligan on the third tee, and then it's double mulligan on the fifth tee.
Double mulligan.
It's if you're and you're like, oh, that's the drive I want, and now that I know how I'm going to throw it, I'll take that shot and play from there, because that's probably the shot I'm going to throw in the tournament. That very often doesn't happen. In regards to practice how you play, there's a sort of documentary. It's like a short documentary video. I don't know what to call it, on Paul McBeth's channel or Discraft's channel. It's a video of Paul McBeth explaining his routine going into a tournament in Florida. And he's in this Airbnb, and he basically says, I take my entire day extremely slow because I want it to be exactly how the tournament's going to be. This is how he warms up. I mean, this is how he wakes up. This is how he eats breakfast. And this is obviously an extreme example. He's a professional. You don't have to do this. But when you're playing your practice round, his example was when he goes to practice putting day of the tournament, he takes one putt. He walks around for a little bit. He throws some drives. He throws some putters. And then he comes back and he putts again. He practices another putt. That is to get you into that routine, because if you're out there on the course, you're throwing like 3 or 4 drives per hole. You're throwing 3 or 4 upshots per hole. That's not how the tournament's going to play out. There are some times where you're even going to be waiting 3 or 4 minutes on the tee pad, waiting for people to clear the green before you get your one throw. You're going to throw 18 tee shots. Hopefully, you're going to throw 18 tee shots. Something could go horribly wrong.
Hopefully.
Where you're throwing
Let's not get that
more than
19th
18
tee shot.
Yes. So definitely practice how you play, and especially in regards to scrambling or taking. Sometimes I will take a more difficult spot on purpose. Like if I throw my second shot and it's even worse than my first shot, like I'm going to go take that one and see what we can do with that. We play at this course again, Little Mulberry Park. It's in the woods. There's trees everywhere. I practice putting sometimes in my backyard. And when I go to Little Mulberry Park, I do not take a single putt in staggered stance looking at the basket. Not
Never.
a single
Not one
one.
time.
18 holes. I don't think, maybe in my entire life, I don't think I've taken
Maybe
just a 20-foot putt looking at the basket in my normal staggered stance. I am always straddle putting with a tree to my left and then another tree 20 feet in front of me to my right. Or unless I'm literally, sometimes I'm in the circle and there's a tree in front of me. I don't know how it happens. It's super messed up. But I'm like never just doing, if I'm just practicing my normal putts and I'm just throwing my drives or taking my drives that land in the fairway every time, that is very damaging to your game. So that is a good piece of advice. Josiah, do you have anything to say about that one?
No, I agree with everything. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yes,
Yeah,
do that.
practice.
Yes, do that.
Practice how you play.
Yeah.
And I'll piggyback off of that a little since I talked about it so much. I won't talk about it too much more. But my second one is going to be throw high percentage shots. And that is to say throw shots in your practice round that you're going to throw in your tournament round. This might not click with everybody, or you might not even experience this issue. I experienced the issue of stepping up to a practice round or my casual rounds, and I'm not really thinking like I'm trying to get my best score out of this. I'm thinking I'm trying to ace. I'm trying to absolutely park this basket. And I'm going to throw an understable mid-range on hyzer, and it's going to get an S-flight, and I'm going to go right in between these two trees, and I'm going to park this basket. And then I step up to the tournament, and I'm like, I do not know if I'm going to execute this shot. That is such a difficult shot to throw. I could just step up to that shot and throw a forehand, overstable fairway driver, and probably get either edge of circle or in the into the edge of circle fairly consistency. Like if I have a 70% chance of hitting the circle with a forehand, or maybe a 20% chance of absolutely parking the basket, and a barely above 0% chance of acing it, I should definitely be taking my 70% chance I'm going to get this forehand close to the circle. So throw high percentage shots, risk versus reward. I guess it's really just gauging that well is what I would say. Throw shots that you're very confident in, and not and I'm saying to do this in your practice rounds as well as in your tournament rounds. You'll find you do it by necessity because you're there's a very high chance I blow up on this hole. But in your practice rounds, temper it down and throw high percentage shots.
Yeah, this is where it comes in, where Luke and I are always joking about how practice rounds, I throw 80% backhands, and then it goes to tournaments, and I throw 80% forehands. Because it's that's the shift. Backhands are cool. Backhands are fun. Flip up backhands in the woods. I was just talking about it. They're fun.
Yeah.
But when you get down to it, and especially in Georgia, we play in the woods, there's a lot of gaps to hit. I'm always more comfortable hitting a gap with a forehand. And so if I throw the backhand, I have a 50% chance to hit the gap and a 50% chance to guarantee bogey. Or if I throw the forehand, I have an 80% chance to hit the gap. And if I don't hit the gap, I'll probably barely miss the gap, and I'll still maybe be able to scramble for a par or something. It's just high percentage, yeah. And so that's... Yep. I definitely agree with that. And when I'm doing a practice round that's really trying to, lock in and get my best score, I'm throwing forehands.
Yeah. And it's kind of different for everyone. You might be going out to a field to practice and learning man, when I throw this baby Anheuser backhand, I just feel so confident. I'm super consistent in that. Then it's when you get into a tournament play, if you can throw that little baby Anheuser backhand, and it's going to work to get you close to the circle. And this is, again, we're speaking amateur divisions. Hopefully in MA2 and MA3, MA1 even, it's not absolute birdie or die on these super difficult courses. It shouldn't be anyways. it's those everybody's high percentage shot might be a little bit different. But we throw a lot of hero shots in our practice rounds. And if a camera is rolling, you should be doing that. For the content, for the clips, do it. But if the camera's not rolling, and if you're getting ready for a tournament, then figure out just what's most comfortable.
Yeah, no, that's something I've learned just like in the last year, is not just only throwing high percentage shots, but practicing high percentage shots, because I am definitely somebody who loves to play hyper aggressive, which is typically why I like doubles events, because I can play the most aggressive line that I can find, and to me that is fun. And I think throwing safe shots are boring. However, I've noticed a very significant tournament just increase in total strokes, like overall, if I throw safer shots. And obviously, if you're playing a tournament, it's down the stretch, you have to know if there is a more aggressive line, if you are getting kind of more desperate to like beat somebody or get to a certain position. And if that's the kind of finisher style of play you want in a tournament, that's different. But I now practice tournaments where I go, what is the safest thing that I could possibly do? And all I'm looking for in my safest option is what will give me a look at the basket guaranteed, essentially. I'm not looking for parked. I'm not looking for edge of circle. I'm like, where can I see the basket? Even if it's 50 feet, I cannot putt from 50 feet, but I definitely can't putt from behind trees in the woods if that's where my tee shot ends up. So that's typically where I'm like, where is my guaranteed I will have a look at the basket. And then based on how I'm playing, if I feel like taking a more aggressive line, then that's different. But if I'm like not feeling mentally great or a little, shaky, I can always rely on just like, well, at the very least, I know I will be 50 feet from the basket, and that's okay right now. So that's something I've only just learned like in the last year.
No, it's so hard to hold back.
Yeah. So, not next week, though.
All right. Not next week. Josiah, or for anyone who doesn't know, we have our 4th annual, this isn't for this year, this was last year's Swanky Time Open coming up at Little Mulberry Park, the aforementioned disc golf course that we play a lot. We have a singles tournament on Friday, September, is it...
The 12th?
13th?
The 12th.
The 12th?
Is the
I was going to
say
Friday the 13th is wild.
Yeah, no, the 12th is the flex, the 13th is the doubles, and it's Friday, Saturday.
Yes, the 12th is a singles tournament, yes, and the 13th we have a doubles tournament. If you're interested, be sure to pull up Little Mulberry Park. We have everything available on Disc Golf Scene, and Trash Panda sponsoring the event. We have Trash Panda player pack discs. Super cool. We have some phone case discs. We have some Ozones, inner cores. I think we have everything. Canyons, dunes. We got the whole lineup.
I don't have a canyon
if you're
yet.
in the area.
Canyon.
Dude, the canyon's
are
money.
Nice. So good.
They're super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is our 4th annual Swanky Time Open.
Heck yeah.
So be sure to be there. Josiah, you want to hit us with your 3rd and final best practice for disc golfers?
Yeah, mine is one that applies to whether you play casual rounds, whether, you're once a month, whether you play tournaments every week, whatever your level of disc golf, I think this is actually kind of super important to remember. And I didn't realize it until about my 3rd or 4th tournament that I ever played. I am super competitive. I love competitions. I love disc golf, and it's so much fun, and I love competing in disc golf. And my 3rd or 4th tournament, I did the usual route, start playing most tournaments MA3, and then kind of as you get more experience, you move up, or you just stay in whatever division you feel is best for you. And I was in the middle of a tournament round. I think it was my 3rd tournament, playing an MA3, and it was a 2-round tournament, and I had a horrible first round. I was super down on myself. Not a great first round. Probably threw too many aggressive shots and should have played the safe shots. Probably should have practiced tapping in my putts. And in the middle of the 2nd round, I am watching the other 3 people on my card take it super seriously the same way I was. And I'm just so focused on just trying to do better myself. And I went, what the heck am I doing? There's no money on the line. Nobody's ever going to hear about my first place finish which is not happening at this point, but nobody's ever going to hear about this in the world. I'm going to go home and tell my wife, hey, I came in 8th out of 12, like, woo. And I was like, and I was so down on myself and I wasn't having fun. So my third tip is remember to kind of, to just have fun. Like I can't tell you the times I've had casual rounds where I'm out playing by myself and I'm 9 holes in just super mad that I hit the 14th tree in a row. Yes, 9 holes, 14 trees. That's correct. And I'm just getting so frustrated and angry. And sometimes I just have to take a step back and remember like why I got into this sport in the first place, why I enjoy it. And that at the end of the day, I have to have fun doing it in all capacities, whether I'm playing a casual round, whether I'm playing with friends, or whether I'm playing a tournament. You do have to have fun with it, otherwise there is no point. So I know it's kind of cheesy as a third one, but remembering to have
great.
fun while you're playing it actually helps your mental game if you are competing, and it helps your casual rounds be even more fun. So just kind of remembering that would be my third and kind of my most important piece of good habits that I would give to somebody who's looking for advice.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of people that get tilted in MA3 it's tragic to see. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to give tips for people to help you get better. I think that Josiah's tip will help you get better. If you don't get tilted, you will actually just do better. If you are on top of your mental
factual.
game, that's just fact. Just don't tilt. That's the other side of have fun. Have fun, don't tilt. That should be the slogan.
Yes.
And you will just do better, and you'll come away from the round feeling better, and you'll have things you can take away from it, things that you can learn and grow from. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Don't tilt.
Ooh,
Sounds crazy.
Yeah. That's very huge, and you see that, and I'm assuming everybody watching this is trying to maybe improve their casual game, improve their amateur disc golf game. If you're aiming to be an absolute pro, it's maybe a little different, but even at a professional level, you see coaches all the time saying like you really need to channel that mindset of remember when I was a kid and I absolutely freaking loved this sport. Because if not, you get things like the yips. You get things like super stressed. And even, professional athletes have to perform for money. There's obviously insane stress. But even them, to an extent, it's just good therapy to go back and remember, like, this is awesome. This is game. I'm having fun. And what Reed said really reminded me of something, but it just escaped to my mind. I had a point to make, but I forgot it. So we're going to move on to Reed's. And I'm sure I'll remember it when I come back to mine.
My third and final, like Josiah was saying, I have so many that really we had to make cuts. But I think this one is important. Yep. And I'm going to stay in gameplay and just go boom, boom, boom. So I've done a lot of gameplay stuff. I think this is shot selection. This is how to stay in the moment on the course. And Josiah, you brought this up, and maybe it touches on practice how you play, but I think this is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And that is it's shot selection. You don't have to park the basket. That is, like, please remember that. You don't even have to get to circle one. If the shot that gets you to 40 feet is way higher percentage than the shot that gets you to 20, put yourself at 40, I can't even tell you guys how long I was, and this is particularly true of up shots, but it's also true off the tee. But I think about this on par 4s and 5s mostly when I'm throwing that shot from the fairway into a green. You don't have to put the disc next to the basket. It can be. Most greens are guarded, there's good course design out there, and it's hard to park baskets on purpose. But the greens are always accessible, and you can put the disc close enough to the basket to give yourself that 20-footer that, like Luke has been saying, that you've all been practicing. I'm sure you've been practicing, so practice your putts, but put it to 20 feet and bang that putt in. You don't have to park the basket. So I always struggled with aiming for the basket, that was always my aiming point. And when I started aiming for circle one and thinking like, oh, I can just aim for this spot on the ground 20 feet from the basket, and that's way more accessible for me right now with this shot. My zone will put me there or something, like whatever it is. That's huge. It unlocks a lot of shots for you, and it can really increase your comfortability on the course to just say, I'm confident in my 20-foot putt. I'm going to just put it here. So that would be my last piece of advice, is just know that circle one, you can make that putt, guys. Don't have to park the basket.
I can't. I have to park the basket.
I actually have to park the basket.
Mostly kind of just kidding. That's great advice. I think it definitely plays into the like throw high percentage shots. A lot of these kind of have overlap because what we're talking about is not like here's your regimen for going out and practicing. It is here's how you optimize your casual rounds so that you can play better in amateur tournaments. And that is huge. I can't tell you how many tournaments. I mean, I've only come in first, like tied for first place, I think, in one tournament, maybe two, and like only one sanctioned tournament. And how many times I've gone into a tournament and I've been like, I need to shoot 8 under to win this tournament. And if I don't shoot 8 under, I'm hosed. And I go out there and I shoot like 2 over par because every single shot I was throwing was like, I need this disc to be under the basket. And then the winning score ends up being like 3 under par.
Yep.
Like the MA2 or even the MA1 winning score ends up being like 2 to 5 under par. And I'm like, I could have played a lot differently if I would have just like put this into circle one, played for par on the holes that I knew I probably wasn't going to birdie. There's a lot of that. And so definitely
For sure.
In your practice rounds, so often we're aiming for the pipe, right? We're aiming for the bottom of the basket. And that's not what you have to do very often. Visualize your shots. I think we talk about that off camera sometimes. Visualizing your shots can be very, very tricky. And there's just so much that goes into it. But visualize a shot that gets you par sometimes, or that gets you into circle one, maybe a jump putt for circle from like just the edge of the circle. That can be huge. So I like that advice a lot. I'm going to round it out with my final one, and this is also going to play into some things we've talked about, but maybe a little bit differently. Before I jump into it, though, again, don't forget to subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. We have this, again, beautiful, absolutely sick fused Scorch. This thing looks crazy. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment down below. Let us know your best tips. We need tips, too. We're going to be amateurs for the rest of our lives. We're weekend warriors.
We need those tips,
So
baby.
let us know. What are some of some practice tips or some just good habits that you have learned over your disc golf career, and let us know because we would love to hear. If you're listening on Spotify, be sure to drop us a follow. We love our audio-only listeners, so big shout out to you guys. And now I'll jump into mine. My final one it's kind of similar to Josiah's, I will say, but it is in the have fun realm, but a little bit different. I'm going to say, and I'm going to quote Ted Lasso here and say, be a goldfish. Be a goldfish. / temper your expectations. I think I'm going to throw that in there. I'm going to give you a little bit of Robbie C advice. And temper your expectations. First off, being a goldfish, we talked about tilting and how crazy difficult that is to deal with, and how many times I have tilted or have been on a card where somebody pretty much has a layup for bogey. Like they missed their putt, they went 40 feet past the basket, up a hit or like downhill, and now they have a 45 footer that it's like, listen man, if you hit the band, it's gonna roll right back to your feet, so just lay it up. Like the odds of you making this 45 footer, we're all MA3 players here today, let's not do this. But they're tilted, they're raging, they're still out. That's absolutely the worst. They stomp down to that putt and they sling it back up at the basket without even thinking about it because they think they're Paul Macbeth and they can do that. And it hits the band and it rolls right back to... I've seen, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say probably every tournament I have ever played, I've seen at least one person do this, where they are absolutely tilted, they're rage putting because they made a big mistake, and it costs them like coming in third place. Oh no, I'm super bummed. And now I'm in last. And like that, maybe not last, but close to last, all the way at the bottom. You drop 10 spots. It happens every single tournament I have ever played. Sometimes it's happened to me in the past. It's happened to Josiah in the past. It's happened to Reed in the past.
I was gonna say, I think I'm one of these people you are referring to.
He might be one of those people. No,
I could think of some.
you have to be a goldfish. And I say, this is my piece of advice, is that the most important throw is the one that you are currently on. It is not the shot you just threw, no matter how bad it was or good. This also works kind of in reverse. If you're super hyped up on that shot, and you're filled with false confidence because you're like, I just banged a 60-footer and I'm feeling really good. I'm going to run this 75-footer, even though there's water behind the basket. I'm just feeling that good. Being a goldfish means evaluating your current circumstance regardless of what has happened before. Whether it was really good or really bad. I do remember what I was going to say with Reed's point, because he said somewhere along the lines of not recognizing your mistakes. And this is kind of funny because this is obviously just good practice. Everyone does this. But I remember the first time somebody laid it out really clearly for me was I play a lot of video games, and I watched this guy who was talking about playing a video game, and specifically video games make people rage. That's just like disc golf and video games are some of the biggest like just rager, just normal golf too. Anything that's really like you're playing against yourself, they make you rage.
It's true.
And he was like, the difference between like me, he's like one of the best in the business, me and a lot of these other people is they rage, they tilt, they freak out when something goes wrong, and they blame the circumstance, or they blame something else, or they say like, that was a fluke, or that was this, that, the other thing. He's like, I look at this situation and I like, if I died in the video game, I know I did something wrong, and I'll evaluate that. I'm going to think about it for a moment, and I'm going to move on and know what I can do better after that. Like, that is so much easier said than done. That is so hard to be like, oh, that wasn't just the wind. I released it really low, or like, and then you don't dwell on that. You don't get angry at yourself. You don't beat yourself up. You say like, that was low. I'm releasing low today. Next putt, I'm going to release a little bit higher. Move on. And you're on your next shot, and then that shot is the most important one. And again, like, so much easier said than done. I'm playing in this tournament next week. Who knows what's going to happen? I haven't practiced. I haven't thrown discs from my own bag in weeks because we do these silly challenges. It's like, I know one thing, though. I'm not going to get tilted. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be a goldfish, and it's going to be a fun time. I'm going to have a great time playing amateur disc golf.
With the boys.
What was that?
I said with the boys. Amateur disc
Yeah,
golf
with the boys.
with the boys. Which, have fun, don't tilt.
Have fun, don't tilt. That should be on a t-shirt.
That's
probably. Awesome. That's, I think, all we're going to have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, this giveaway will be in the description of our YouTube video, the Swanky Disc Golf Show channel. If you're listening, go check it out. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Stay swanky.
Stay swanky.
Stay swanky.